So, for today's class, our topic is literary elements of fiction. Now, what are literary elements? Please read Shea May. Okay, literary elements are the basic parts that an author uses to create a story. These parts includes what? First, we have setting, second plot, theme, characters, conflict, point of view, mood, foreshadowing, flashback, irony, and the last one is symbol. Okay, next. Okay, activity 1. Know me. For this activity, I want you to identify which are the various literary elements, and then after you state the literary element, you will say fiction instead of cheese, and then take a unique post of yours. Okay, let's start with Mr. Jonathan. Plot setting. Okay, wow, that's a great post. Next, we have Mr. Brian. Okay, go. Theme. Okay, next. Okay, flashback. Very good. Next. Protagonist. Wow, what an indeed post. Next. Point of view. And for the last one, we have conflict. Wow, you really enjoyed our first activity. I love it. Okay, let's proceed. Now, I will explain and introduce to you all of the aforementioned literary elements. First, we have the setting. What is setting, by the way? The place where the action takes place as well as the time period. For example, once upon a time in an ancestral period, in a cold, dark cave in northern Mindanao, there was a creature named Sarimanok. Now, I want you to observe the example. Okay, it is where the author stated what are the place, what kind of era, what kind of period of time is the setting. Usually, setting of the story, it is the introduction part or the exposition. I will discuss it later of the story. Now, next we have plot. Please read Mr. Vincent. Okay. Okay, the storyline, which usually involves conflict between two or more characters or between characters and herself or himself. You may now take your seat. Fiction plot usually follows a particular pattern: exposition, where action or conflict begins, the rising action, events that promote the conflict, the climax or the point of greatest emotional tension, and the resolution or denouement, where loose ends are wrapped up. Some works do not follow this pattern. Okay, for the plot, it is the sequence of the events of the story. Take note that exposition is the beginning, next is the rising action, the middle or the climax, where the greatest tension is presented in the story, the falling action, and the resolution or the denouement. Next. Okay, theme. I want you to read this, Miss Anna. Okay, go. Theme. Okay, thank you. A general topic or concept that is addressed in a literary work. This is not to be confused with the moral or message, which may be related to a particular theme. Next is critical analysis of literary work. Usually discusses other elements of a work in relation to a chosen theme. Now, usually, theme isn't literally written in a short story or a novel. It is usually the reader to find out what is the theme of that specific story. Take note of that, okay? Now, next, we have the characters. Characters can be flat or round. Flat characters are stereotypical and one-dimensional, while round characters are more complex and behave in contradictory or unexpected ways. For the characters, take note that there are two types, flat and round. For the flat characters, these are usually characters that don't give any character development. If that character is bad from the beginning, at the end of the story, he or she is still bad. While in the round character, it is more complex, hard to define what is the character of that specific character in the story because she or he may be switching each of the events or scenes of the story as in it unfolds the whole story. Now, there are two types of characters. Of course, we have the protagonist, the main or focal character, also called the hero in traditional romance, and the antagonist, also called villain in romance. Say for example, who is the protagonist of the Harry Potter series? Of course, itself Harry Potter, because he is the main character. And who is the antagonist of that series? Among all the antagonists, just choose one super duper main villain. Who? Yes, I want to call Mr. Bryant. Okay, Voldemort. Very good. Now let's proceed to the next topic. Okay, conflict. Conflict. The struggle that takes place between two opposing forces. There are two types of conflict. Take note of that. First is external, outside the character. Along the external, we have person versus person, person versus nature, person versus society. Now, person versus person, what do you think is the conflict? It could, yes, very good. It could be your friend, it could be your family, it could be your lover, anything that is in person. However, in the nature, the environment. Now, who can give me an example of a movie or a story that is the conflict is under person versus nature? I want to call Miss Denise. The 2012 movie. Okay, very good. That's a good example, by the way, because that movie, the conflict was about the catastrophic events of the world. We have the earthquake, the tsunami, the floods. Now, for the person versus society, who can give me examples? Okay, very good. General Luna. General Luna is a person versus society type of conflict. Why? Why is it? It is because the army isn't truly the conflict. They are not the rival of the story. It is the society, the Philippines itself, because they betrayed General Luna together with his companions, the allied companion of the Philippines. They tried to sabotage and stab him. Yes, it is the society. Now, let's move on to the internal. Internal within the character's mind. Usually, it is person versus self. Now, I want you to reflect a story or within yourself. Who can give me an example that conflict within yourself? Okay, mental health. That's a good example. Miss Shea, very good. I like it. What else? Self-control. Very good. Who can give me some scenarios applying any external and internal type of conflict? Yes, Mr. Vince? Oh, wow. Very good. Well delivered. Give him a boom clap. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. Now let's proceed to the next slide.